Thanksgiving here in a few days. I'm not sure what you were thinking about a year ago Thanksgiving, but can you just kind of reflect on this past year and just everything that happened? I see you getting the UCF job like about a week after that, and just everything you've been through building up to a meaningful game here on Saturday.
Yeah, Thanksgiving was interesting last year too. Remember we played at New Orleans, and I got a call for the first time that this might happen, and I didn't give it much thought then. I was actually walking around in New Orleans finding a couple little gifts to give my kids and my wife from New Orleans. And then, yeah, it was hard for me to leave there because I had such a good time with such a great group of people and organization. And it's just been constant busy since then. And it's been a lot of first year things, honestly, us learning. And it's been a heck of a lot of fun and a lot of work at the same time. I'm looking forward to a time when things are a little easier and this thing's kind of running itself. We have the right guys around. Everybody knows what the expectations are, and we're building to that. But first years are always a lot of work, and despite that, it's been a lot of fun.
Scott, along those same lines, you look at where this team was when you started. You brought in 70 new players, you hold the coaching staff. To be right here where you are this week, going into a game that's actually meaningful, you could actually get to the postseason. What does that say about this program, this team, and where you've gone so far this first year?
Yeah, I'm always careful up here and anywhere to talk about things down the road because we need to be focused on this week. That being said, the two guys in the back of the room that you guys are going to talk to are a perfect example. We came in last year as a group, and I didn't know a lot of the players. We didn't know a lot of the players that were here or that we brought in. These two guys back here are two guys that we're going to do everything we can to keep and start building around guys that we know, that know what we expect, that are doing everything we ask of them, and then fill in around them. That's going to make life a lot easier, and the relationships that I've developed with guys like these two in the back of the room, they're special, and they'll continue to be more special as we have more shared experiences together. So that's the goal. That being said, every game is important. This game is a great opportunity for us to go compete with one of the best in the league and measure ourselves. It's also a great opportunity to get another week of work with this group. And anytime you have an opportunity to play a football game, man, you want to take advantage of it because they go so fast. And this group that we have this year, this is our last opportunity, and they could finish the year really special if we go out and play really well.
Coach, I know we spoke after the game. You said making a bowl game isn't end all be all, although it would be nice. What would it mean to you personally as a coach in your first season back to reach that accomplishment?
Yeah, that's something we definitely wanted to accomplish. I mean, we've been so close in a lot of games, but again, we have a great chance right in front of us. Probably one of the top teams in this league, and we have to go out and play at their place, and it's certainly not going to be easy. I got a ton of respect for Coach Taki and his program and the guys that they put together, and they've had a really good year. So it's a big challenge, but we got a group of guys that if we come together and play well, we can be dangerous. So that puts no pressure on us, and it's going to be a lot of fun to go give it our best shot.
I know, to follow up on that, I know it's stings to talk about some of the close losses you've had this season, but does it kind of sting you as well, knowing that if you just had a couple of different plays in the fourth quarter, that you guys would already be eligible and you wouldn't have to be in a one-on-one situations for full eligibility? Yeah,
it does. I want to win. I don't want guys in the program that don't think that way. There's a lot of motivations now in college football that probably didn't exist a while back, but your number one motivation has got to be you hate to lose and you love to win, and you're going to compete and do everything you can to try to win every play, every snap, every down, every game. And we need a whole building full of people like that. It's almost easier when you get beat pretty soundly to wake up the next morning than it is when you're so close. And the key for us is to get to a point where those close games aren't close anymore, and if we have some others that are close, we try to find a way to win them like we did Saturday.
Throughout the season, you, Coach Cooper, Coach Rich have talked about starting games faster, settling into games earlier, especially on the road. What has to change this week in practice see you do that in Provo?
Well, we have not started well on the road. You know, at home, Saturday, we didn't start very well, and we played well in the second half. And there's been a couple others where we started really well and didn't play well in the second half. So it's really about playing a complete game, being ready to go right out the jump and playing 4 quarters. And, you know, we're going to need that kind of effort Saturday against a good team.
Coach, just after, I know it's a little bit after, but you do have early signing day coming up just after the BYU game. Of course, recruiting is something, you know, year in, year out type of thing. So as that's kind of approaching, how do you feel about your recruiting efforts going into that during the season?
Yeah, it's hard to admit, but if you only have a year to recruit, you're still a little behind. A lot of kids are making decisions earlier. I feel good about where we are. You know, Witten's a good example. He's in the back. You know, Bellamy, we went and found and got in the portal, and we're really glad we have him. Waden was recruited by the last staff. We're really glad we have him. As much as we can build our program through kids that we recruit and bring in and pour into, we at least need a core of those kids, and that's what you get out of high school recruiting. So we're excited that we're able to have a little bigger class this year and some kids that we think have a ton of potential and we're excited about. And then you can just fill in the gaps, but it's got to start there. And certainly the efforts this year, even though we got a late start on it, are going to be important to us going forward.
What are your early impressions of BYU and the challenge not only their roster presents, but also the potential kickoff conditions?
Yeah, I can talk about the kickoff conditions in a second, but it's a good team. You know, they're probably the biggest team we've played for sure up front. Their linebackers are big. You know, they just have a lot of grown men on the team because of age and just body types that they have, and I think that's what they're recruiting to. We got to be ready for a physical game, and you know, I'm excited about that. That's a really good test for us. As far as conditions, I loved playing in the snow. You know, it's supposed to be, I don't know, if a high of 40 or 38 or something. That's not cold. You know, I played in Green Bay one year, and I don't think it saw 20 for 6 weeks. That's cold, you know. This isn't cold, so I'm not gonna even let the guys think that way. 38 degrees, 35 degrees. It's fun when there's a little snow coming out of the sky. If somebody doesn't want to play in that, then I don't really want to coach them. So altitude is another thing. You know, it's now scientific, I guess, that the less time you spend in altitude, the better. And you know, I've played in altitude before, and it's like you get winded in warm-ups, and then you never notice it again. So we just need to ignore all those things and go play football. And I expect I have a lot of kids that'll do just that.
Kind of on that point, do you like players who thrive in this kind of one and done situation? You know, like the playoffs still kind of new, and this program's aspiring to get there, but you know, a winning type thing, is that the kind of mindset or the kind of atmosphere that you want to cultivate with this team and see them thriving?
Yeah, you know, we intentionally don't put any more emphasis on one game than another, but I want people to play like the season's on the line in every game. That's what you want. Said a bunch of times, we've got a lot of players that think that way and are going to lay it on the line every chance they get, take advantage of every opportunity they get. We need a whole team of them. So because of the situation we put in, there's probably a little more, we put ourselves in, there's probably a little more emphasis on this to try to earn another game. But, you know, if they play harder in that situation, then they weren't listening to us and playing hard in all the games either. So it's a one game at a time thing for us, and this is the next challenge in front of us.
Coach, kind of along those lines, back here, how do you kind of either emphasize the urgency of this win and be into a bowl game, a huge game on the line, or kind of keep it more even keeled as you've been trying to do all season?
No, it's even keel. We're going to get them up for this game, and I want us to go shoot our shot. But, you know, I'm also not going to be the guy that hangs all these kids' success or feeling about the entirety of this year on this game. We need to prepare as well as we can for this game. That means a good Monday, a really good Tuesday and Wednesday practice. We need to travel appropriately, get our mindset right, and go play as hard as we can, and that's the same formula as it is every game.
Coach, you spoke a little bit already about the guys in the back of the room. Can you just kind of expand on the two? You know, Wade is a freshman coming off one of his best games. Jaden Bellamy showed he's one of the best corners in this conference. Just kind of talk about those guys and the impacts they've made for your team this season.
Yeah, start with Bellamy. You know, Jaden and Antoine have stepped into those roles for us, and I think it's the best thing you can say about a corner is I don't worry about them or notice them much in the game unless they make a play, and that means they're consistent and solid and doing their job. He's been a bright spot for us, and really that position's been a bright spot for us. So we're really glad we got him. You know, Waden has, since the first time I saw him, I've been excited about him and really excited about his potential. He cares a lot. Bellamy too. You know, those are two guys that you want to go to battle with because they care. Knew it was just a matter of time for Waden before everything clicked and he started making plays consistently. And I hope and think we saw the beginnings of that on Saturday.
Scott, I know you have a little connection with Kleiman over at Kansas State. I don't know if you had a chance to see it on Saturday after his game. He got pretty emotional and had to be comforted by the AD, talking a little bit about the passion and wanting to win so bad. What does it say about coaching, I guess, in general, to have that much passion and to kind of put so much on the line week in and week out?
Yeah, people don't realize when they're yelling at guys like Chris or me or any other coach out there how much we put into it. And there's no fan that cares more than we do. There's no fan that cares more about the players than we do, that wants to win worse than we do. You know, sometimes you got a great situation and it's easy. Sometimes it's a lot harder and you may or may not get there. But you know, Chris has shown he's a really good guy and a good coach, and he's won a lot there. And it's hard to win every game every year. And I think people are a little impatient. And he's a passionate guy. I've got a ton of respect for him. He's a really good coach. So I'm not surprised when coaches have emotional outbursts. On top of everything, we're really tired this time of year because it's 14-hour days for 4 months without a day off, except maybe on a bye week. So it gets to you, but he cares a lot, like we all do, and wish him the best, except when we're playing.
Coach, I know you reflected on the season at the beginning of the conference, but kind of just in a broad scheme, it's your first year back with UCF. Do you feel like you learned anything new about yourself or learned any lessons along the way during this journey?
About myself?
Yeah, about yourself, or just being in the position that you are now for a second time, I guess you can say.
No, one thing that's apparent to me is how much more there is on a head coach even now than there was even 5 years ago, last time I was here. There's just, we got to keep finding resources to try to build the team. We got to be worried about the transfer portal a lot earlier than we used to be. There's team culture things to worry about. And then, when you add that some coaches are heavily involved in offensive or defensive scheming, game planning, and calling a game, it's a lot. I love every aspect of it. You just get worn down a little bit. I've surrounded myself with a lot of really good people, but that's got to be really important that you trust the people that are around you to take things off your plate. And like I said, I think going into the future with a lot of kids we know, a lot of coaches that know each other and know where we're headed and what the plan is, and that'll make everything a lot easier. So I'm really excited about this game, and I'm excited about the future beyond that.
After Saturday's game, you talked about needing more vocal leaders in the program. As you look to high school recruits in the transfer portal, how do you assess that? How do you evaluate that characteristic, that trait?
It's hard to really know somebody in the short time you get to know, particularly in portal recruiting. You kind of come down and interview them and show them around. Recruiting's become a little more transactional, and it's a little more of an interview than showing them a good time when they come on campus. We're doing everything we can to try to figure out if it's the type of kid we want to invest resources and time and a spot into. So we do the best we can to try to figure out what makes a guy tick when they come on campus. But really, when you watch tape, if you see a guy that's playing as hard as they can all the time and selling out for the team, the other traits that we're looking for are probably there as well.
Coach, with following last game, Dylan Wade ended up taking over as the team's leading receiver. Just to talk a little bit about him, and what's it like when you have a tight end like that that's able to step up in the receiving department?
Yeah, I think Dylan Wade stepping up in that game and Waden stepping up that game is important to us and a good sign for things to come. You know, we've struggled at times this year separating against tight coverage. These guys last week played, you know, basically 0 quarters a lot of the game, and you just have to be able to win on the perimeter. There's only so many ways you can motion and trick them. So to some degree, you just have to win on your routes. You know, Waden was able to do that quite a bit Saturday, and Dylan Wade as well. And then when you have a guy that can run like Dylan can at tight end and you pop him open, it turns into big plays. And I was really excited and have been excited about the kind of emergence of those two, and we need more of them.
Awesome.
Early kickoff on Saturday, where are you on the get up and play?
Get up and play.
Get up early and play.
Yeah, we're gonna stay on East Coast time, so we'll get to bed earlier, and hopefully it'll feel later to us when we wake up. But you know, Kansas State was our one that was early, and there was a lot going on in the program that week. But I didn't feel like we hit the turf with quite the same juice that we had before. So we'll do everything we can to try to get the guys ready to be at full speed and at their top level execution and play one.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.